Thank you so much to Mr. White letting us tag along and kicking this thing off. This is the Jazz Combo. We're going to start with just a selection of 3 tunes. You may have heard these intermixed over our last few performances. We're going to start with a wonderful tune entitled On Green Dolphin Street. This is actually a jazz standard that came about from movies. There's actually a movie called Green Dolphin Street. And at first, I thought it was a romance film from the 1940s, but it's actually a historical disaster film. So entitled Green Dolphin Street. And this actually, this song from this movie was actually taken by a bunch of jazz artists and became a standard in the jazz standard playbook. With many covers by singer Mel Torme, also Miles Davis, as well as some other prominent pioneers of jazz. So we hope you enjoy On Green Dolphin Street.
The next tune we're going to use is another jazz standard by famed tenor saxophonist Sonny Rollins, a pioneer as well as a founding father in terms of bebop styles as well as just good old-fashioned jazz. So this is actually a tune based off of an English folk song that his mother sang to him as a nursery rhyme growing up in the U.S. Virgin Islands around the Caribbean. Entitled St. Thomas, named after the, of course, U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas. So I've actually been fortunate enough to have been there, and it is a wonderful, wonderful place, and it brings a lot of calypso, Afro-Cuban type of styles and idioms to this. So we hope you enjoy St. Thomas. We're going to feature Matthew on alto sax and Lily on drum set. We're going to keep things with these. So hope you enjoy.
Did you say
Anybody know his most famous composition? Everybody thinks it's Pink Panther. It's actually Moon River. Moon River from the movie Breakfast at Tiffany. I could be wrong, but main famous there. But his second most famous tune is, of course, the theme from the Pink Panther movies from way back in the day. Also a remake, I think, in 2000 or whatever, from my generation. So we've had the 70s and we had the Pink Panther remake in the 70s. I think it was Steve Martin. So that's pretty good. But he's also a composer of numerous film scores as well as television shows. The Peter Gunn theme is also another composition of his as well. But tonight, we are going to give you the Pink Panther because that's what everybody wants. So this features Lily Peck on probably the hardest thing I've ever put in front of her to ever learn, the triangle part. Just so integral to this whole thing. The triangle to this is the cowbells at Blue Oyster Cult. So you're going to want that triangle in here. So I hope you enjoy the Pink Panther. Then we're going to turn it over to Mr. Whiteman concert.
step adjustment, and we should be back with you. Our goal is to be back with you in 4 minutes. So nobody time us because we don't want to get caught right now. So we'll be back with you in just a second.
Thank you. Our first piece tonight was Coast Guard's March by Carl King. This was the march that we performed back in March at State Music Performance Assessment. Carl King, he began working as a newspaper carrier at the age of 11 so that he could use the money from his job to buy his first instrument, which was a cornet. He grew up a self-taught musician with very little schooling of any kind and actually left school after the 8th grade. So before any of these students made it this far, he'd already left school and began working full-time with a printing office, learning the printing trade. He used money from there to continue delving into his musical studies, buying other instruments, learning to play them. He also spent time at night studying musical scores as well as learning to compose music. He wrote more than 300 works, of which 188 of them were marches. The best known of his marches being one that many of you probably know, Farnham and Bailey's Favorite. I think they're about ready. I always try to kill a little bit of time, get percussion time, move around and reset. Back in February, we had auditions for Shoals Area Honor Band, and then that honor band was held a couple weeks later. And I want to recognize the 13 students from this band tonight who participated in the Shoals Area Honor Band. Again, they had to earn a spot in this honor band via audition. And those students were, and I'll ask them to please stand when I call out their name. They were on flute, Mackenzie Borden, Savannah Hanson, Andrew Mason Ross, Nathan Phillips, alto sax, Matthew Strickland, trumpet, Sadie Boyle, trombone, Nathaniel Wright, tuba, Cody Payton, snare, Lily Peck and Reese Jones, mallets, Dylan Parker and Chloe Henderson, and timpani, Samuel Brown. Let's get all those students together. tonight, Incantations, was commissioned by and dedicated to the Long Beach Middle School 8th grade band in Long Beach, New York in 1992. The composer, Robert W. Smith, was an Alabama resident and a friend of the Florence High School band program and FIFA program, having arranged several of our FIFA Christmas extravaganza finale pieces before his passing last year. This is a fun piece, got a lot of percussion stuff in it. Several students have played it at an honor band a few years ago, and some had even requested to play it. So this is Incantations, and we're going to dedicate this tonight in the memory of our friend, Robert W. Smith. This time I'd like to recognize 13 students that participated in the UNA Honor Band this past month. To participate in the UNA Honor Band, students fill out an online form, and then UNA chooses students to fill out the instrumentation of 2 bands. Students show up the day of auditions, or the day of the honor band starts, and audition that day, live audition in their place later that evening in one of the 2 bands. Please hold your applause to the end of the names, since there are 13 of them. Some of these are the same names you saw a moment ago. We have on flute, Ian Mackenzie Gordon, on clarinet, Andrew Mason Florence, Daisy Phillips, and Katie Beth Underwood, alto sax, Matthew Strickland, trumpet, Sadie Doyle and Ella Kelsey, trombone, Nathaniel Wright, tuba, Cody Peden, percussion, Lily Peck, Samuel Brenham, Reese Jones, and Dylan Parker. Of these 13 students, 9 of them made the top band, and one of those who didn't make the top band was actually the first chair in the second band, so just missed making the top band by 1 chair. Let's give all these students a big round of applause. Next up tonight will be another one of the pieces that we performed at the Alabama Bandmaster Association State Music Performance Assessment back earlier in March. In 1996, shortly after the passing of his father, composer David Holsinger wrote and released a piece about the pioneers in his family that farmed the land in central Missouri, where the family lived. In the words of Mr. Holsinger himself, this is how he described his father and grandfather. My father and my grandfather before him were men strong in resolve and perseverance, yet humble and gentle with the land on which they lived. They each were men of Christian faith and love, rugged men who daily battled the frustration of nature's fickleness, yet always willing to put aside the time needed to nurture the family. I am forever grateful for the heritage my father has passed on to me. As I read those words when I was putting my notes together for this and putting it in there, I couldn't help but think, I know many of you know last week my grandmother was in a bad car wreck. She actually passed away Friday night. And I thought back on her life and also my grandfather's life. My grandfather was also a farmer, raised cattle and chickens and farmed the land as well. And I remember days growing up on the farm and the things that I learned from my grandfather. And I know that many of you sitting in the audience tonight have probably very similar memories of maybe your parents or grandparents or even great-grandparents. So as we perform tonight, this next piece is called In Praise of Gentle Pioneers. I want you to reflect maybe on some of those people in your life that influenced you by being pioneers of the land and being stewards of the land and also being leaders in your family. So this is In Praise of Gentle Pioneers by David Holston. who this year made our District 3 honor band as well as our All-State honor band. These students went through a rigorous in-person audition back in January just to make the District 3 honor band. And if they were high enough in the District 3 honor band, then they had to do a video audition as the second round or portion of the audition for All-State. We had 4 students this year who made both District 3 as well as our All-State honor band. Again, please hold your applause to the end. Those 4 students are on clarinet, Savannah Hanson, on trombone, Nathaniel Wright, and on percussion, Lily Peck and Reese Jones. Let's give these a big round of applause. In 1577, Elizabeth I, Queen of England, secretly commissioned Sir Francis Drake to undertake an expedition against the Spanish colonies on the Pacific coast of the New World. With 5 ships and 166 men, Drake set sail from Plymouth, England on December the 13th, 1577. After crossing the Atlantic Ocean, 2 of his ships had to be abandoned in the Rio de la Plata estuary of South America. In August of 1578, some 8 months after beginning the voyage, the 3 remaining ships left the Atlantic Ocean and entered the Strait of Magellan at the southern tip of the South American continent. 16 days later, they sailed into the Pacific Ocean, where they encountered violent storms lasting more than 50 days. One of the 3 remaining ships was destroyed, and one had to sail back to England. This left Drake with his flagship vessel, the Golden Hind. He moved northward along the Pacific coast of South America, plundering several Spanish ports along the way. He eventually sailed his ship across the Pacific, returning to England on September 26, 1580, 2 years and 9 months after setting sail, and having completely circumnavigated the globe. Queen Elizabeth knighted Sir Francis Drake on his return, and the composer, Corey J. McBride, has appropriately entitled this piece, Perilous Voyage. But that's not the end of the story of this piece, because, you see, Corey J. McBride, the composer, not your ordinary composer. In 2002, when Perilous Voyage, which was McBride's 3rd composition, was submitted to the Downbeat Magazine Student Awards competition and received the award for Best Extended Composition. At this time, Corey was much like these students sitting on stage, a member of his high school band. You see, he had started composing at age 13 and was only 15 years of age when this piece was published and received that award. Much like the voyage of Sir Francis Drake, playing this piece itself is quite the perilous voyage. There are multiple tempo changes, key changes, literally hundreds of accidentals, and difficult passages layered on top of each other. This piece could quite be the perilous voyage for us tonight. It's a very difficult piece. But I like to challenge you to the spring concert every year, just to see what we can do with something that might be a little bit of a stretch, but just to expose them to some music that they might not ordinarily play. And I thought the fact that a young man at the age of any of them on stage composed this piece is kind of unique in itself. So with the story of Sir Francis Drake's trip around the world, as written by 15-year-old Corey J. McBride, here is Perilous Voyage. School board member or FCS teacher, would you please stand and be recognized? This time I'd like to thank a special group of people whose time and dedication have made it possible for the students on stage here tonight. That is their parents. Without parents purchasing instruments, paying band fees, getting students to and from rehearsals and performances, this would not be possible. So with all those parents in the audience and grandparents, please stand and be recognized tonight. I'd also like to give a special thank you and shout out to Mr. Bullock and Mr. Brian J. for all that they do to help this program be successful. There's no way that we could be where we are without these two gentlemen and all that they do. I know they're both backstage somewhere. And last group I'd like to recognize are our seniors tonight. I'm going to ask them as I call their names to come up and line up along the front of the stage up here. And at the end, I'm going to get out of the way. Parents of seniors, if you would like to come down and take pictures, feel free to do so. That's why we're bringing them up front so you can see them and get a good shot of them. Our first senior is Samuel Brown. He's the son of James and Laurel Brown. After completing his 6 years as a member of the percussion section, Samuel plans to major in mechanical engineering at Florida College in Tampa, Florida. Javarius Dixon is the son of Cornelia Dixon and grandson of Margaret Dixon. He is a 5-year member of the percussion section and plans to study music at Alabama State University. Josh Harrison is the son of J.D. and Stephanie Harrison. He is a 6-year member of the trumpet section and plans to attend UNA and major in accounting. Isaac Hauser is the son of Tony and Stephen Hauser. He has played tuba in the band for 6 years and plans to attend Northwest Shoals Community College and major in music education. Reese Jones is the son of David Jones and Mary Jones. Reese has been in band 6 years, where he is a member of the percussion section. Reese plans to attend UNA and major in music education. Maddie McGee is the daughter of Jessica McGee and Lance McGee. Maddie has played bass guitar and percussion in the band for 3 years and plans to major in nursing at UNA after graduation. Kendall Merchant is the son of Michelle and Kennard Merchant. Kendall has spent 4 years in the band playing percussion and French horn. He plans to major in business at UNA. Ian Nance is the son of the late Ernest Nance and LaTarsha Harrison. Ian has been in band 7 years as a member of the percussion section. He plans to attend Savannah College of Art and Design and major in fashion design. David Parker is the son of James Parker and Tamala Hunter. He is a 5-year member of the band where he is a member of the baritone section. Lily Peck is the daughter of Matt and Melody Peck and has been a 7-year member of the percussion section. Upon graduation, Lily plans to attend UNA and major in music education. Paisley Phillips is the daughter of Josh and Yolanda Phillips and has played clarinet in the band for 7 years. She plans to attend UNA and major in biology with a focus on the environment. Caleb Price, unable to be with us this evening, is the son of Reverend Lanier Price III and Elaine Price. He's a 7-year member of the trumpet section, and his plans after graduation are to join the U.S. Naval Academy and study political science. Matthew Strickland is the son of Robert and Samantha Strickland. He has played saxophone in the band for 7 years and plans to attend UNA and major in music education with instrumental concentration. Also able to be with us this evening is Cooper Sillis, the son of Becky Sillis and Captain Steve Sillis. He has played percussion in the band for 6 years and plans to major in music performance upon graduation. And there you have it, our senior class. And again, I'm going to step out of the way so y'all get pictures of them. Thank you so much for coming out tonight to support our band program. We hope that you've enjoyed the music tonight and hope that something we have performed has affected you in a positive manner. Our last piece of the evening is also our final piece that we performed at Music MBA back in March, where the band received another all-overall superior rating this year. We're truly proud of the band and their hard work and their endeavors each and every performance, but especially representing Florence High School, Reading Superior, at the Stadium PA. In the mythical Greek tradition, heroes must often prove themselves by accomplishing impossible tasks. In this work, the Corinthian hero, Bellerophon, is thrust into the perilous labor of trying to combat Chimera, a troublesome monster with a fire-breathing goat's head, the four-quarters of a lion, and the hind part of a dragon. Sounds pretty hideous to me. No man could ever vanquish the Chimera alone, but Bellerophon had a valuable ally, the winged horse Pegasus. This piece was commissioned by the Ohio chapter of the American School Band Directors Association, and composer David Schaefer does a magnificent job of telling the story of the battle with the Chimera right at the end when Bellerophon with his horse Pegasus plunged from a great height in a victorious assault on the monstrous creature and end with the victory. This is Flight of the Pegasus.